2 younger brothers, 2 uncles, 2 aunts, and all of their 12 children were all sent from the ghetto straight to Auschwitz and were never heard from again. This is a slide of Klettendorf, the slave labor camp in 1942, and Kathy is denoted by the blue arrow. In Klettendorf, Kathy told the Germans she was a dressmaker. She was given a Singer sewing machine, and her work ran 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, without rest and very little food. In January 1944, Kathy was transferred to the Ludwigsdorf slave labor camp, another slave labor camp, sub-camp of Gross-Rosen. Here life was even harder. She suffered more as food became more restricted. As the war raged on, she began to lose weight. Soon enough, she was almost a skeleton. So here we see an example of extreme deprivation. The next, another. Ludwigsdorf was a munitions factory, and the conditions were quite dangerous. One day, her face was damaged by a small explosion, and after developing typhus, she was placed on an outside work detail. Very rough duty as well. In March 1945, as the Allies began the final push to Berlin, she was transferred again, this time to another sub-camp of Gross-Rosen, Gorlitz. This is the shot of Gorlitz. It was taken by Allied forces right after liberation. In April 1945, as the war ended, Gorlitz camp was disbanded by the Germans just before. Prisoners were given a choice: to leave with the German guard escort or to stay in the camp. Kathy chose to stay, a wise choice since those that left with the guards were mainly killed on what became a death march. Shortly after the German captors left, the camp was liberated by Russian infantry. And at this point, Kathy weighed about 75 pounds. She was given some food rations by the Russians. She ate slowly and judiciously and began to regain her strength over a month of these rations. During this period, into the Gorlitz camp walked Jack Schenk, a refugee from Plaszow, another infamous camp, and now a survivor from the death march from Plaszow. Plaszow was the camp where Schindler did his work saving Jews, and where Schenk managed to survive. The remaining occupants of the Gorlitz camp were given papers by the Russians identifying them as, quote, displaced persons, unquote. They were told they could leave the camp, but there was no way to leave other than to walk, if you could. Jack, another man, Maori, and 5 women, including Kathy, began to walk east, 8 hours a day, towards Bunzlau, Poland, a city from which trains were departing. They faced daily danger from Russian troops wanting to rape the girls, and the local populace wanting to rob them of what little they had. In Bunzlau, the group split up, and Jack and Kathy went to Urkus to try and find what remained of Kathy's past life. Nothing there remained. Then they were given a pass to go to Krakow, again, to see if Jack's relatives could be found. They found no one. In May of 1946, they were assigned to the United Nations refugee camp in Linz, Austria, where for the first time in years they were treated very well. So, this is Kathy, and she's in here. I'm sorry I do not have an arrow identifying her, but she is in this photograph at the 1945 memorial, where the survivors gathered to memorialize the extreme, horrific situation that occurred. So this is a friend in the driver's seat, Kathy in the front, and Jack in the back. Jack and Kathy, this is post-war. both healing. And this, I love this photograph, taken where? Again, Jack and Kathy. Jack and Kathy married in the camp in 1946. After 2.5 years in the camp, Kathy became pregnant with Harry. Kathy wrote a letter to her aunt in Detroit, Michigan. She eventually got a letter back with $5 in spending money. Kathy's relatives in Detroit had signed an affidavit for her to come to the United States. And together, Jack Schenck and Kathy Schenck sailed for New York on December 21st, 1948, aboard the US flagged ship, the SS Marine Flasher. So what I have here, and I'm hoping it's going to run, we've had a little internet challenge, we'll give Tyler a moment to run this, is critical past footage of the ship docking in New York, no sound. We'll try to reload it. Give it another shot. Maybe Tyler, we can try the second piece, the second one instead. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Go ahead and roll that.
Look at that. All your worldly possessions.
We'll try one more time. If it doesn't work, we'll move on. But it was great footage. And basically, it shows people getting off the boat, shows people meeting their loved ones in the area where they can access them. And the final image is what I hope to really show, if it'll run. And if it won't, we may try to run it at the end. We'll try that at the end. Tyler, I think, is probably the best thing to do at this point. If you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide. So, Jack found work as a carpenter in Detroit, Michigan. And after 6 months in Detroit, Kathy gave birth to Harry on March 15th, 1949. Later, Sheldon and Susie were born, and in 1959, the family left for the warmer climes of Los Angeles. So here we are in the early 1960s. Sheldon could date the car, I'm sure. Just kind of Fender. What was that car again, Sheldon? 1962 Buick. I was thinking Chevy, but what do I know? So here's Harry, Sheldon, and Susie, all sitting at the table here. And here's Kathy and Sheldon. And this next one I think might be my favorite. Is it? Yes, perfect. So there's a time capsule for you right there. Love that picture. So here's Kathy when she visited Israel, putting, I presume, a prayer on the Wailing Wall. And here she is at a celebration of life, of her life, in the chair. Now, as you know, she just turned 95, so this was a recent photo also in your program. She was 95. And here are her grandchildren with Kyla, her namesake, granddaughter, great-granddaughter, excuse me. And here's Kyla again. So the child that knows its history is the ultimate bearer of remembrance. Tonight, in your minds and hearts also, Kathy places the torch of remembrance. And now, give us a few minutes, and we're going to listen to Margaret and Kathy's conversation. We do need to bring her up and set her up. So, thank you. We'll do that now.